Hey everyone, welcome to the Next Well webinar. We're excited to dive into the Creative Cockpit today. Raba is actually in gloomy London, so Logan and I thought we would bring our Hawaiian shirts to bring a little sun. He won't be joining us today, but in spirit, we're just here to brighten it up. So how you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. Can't wait for Robert to watch this and be thinking about the sunny weather that we're enjoying right now in our parts of the world. While he's probably getting rained on, messing up his sneaks.
Oh yeah, his poor sneakers. So,
Those
oh,
Nikes can't
Curtis.
handle London.
Sounds like Curtis can relate. He's in gloomy London. Very gloomy London. So
Curtis, how much rain is there right now? That's what I want to know.
and how would you quantify that?
In inches.
Or centimeters?
There's 14 centimeters of rain per day.
He's typing, so we'll just anxiously wait. And
An awful lot. That sounds terrible. But we feel for you, man. Hope the Hawaiian shirts brighten your day a bit.
Awesome.
But yeah, we're just waiting on some folks to trickle in before we get started. But for the people who are here, we'll also have this recorded and shared at a later date as well, which would be good for anybody who wants to rewatch.
Yep. So we'll just give another minute or so. I wish we had some awkward elevator music going, but
I tried to play music. It didn't work. I thought the audio would come through, but it's a no-go.
Logan, maybe while we're waiting, why don't you tell the people what we launched yesterday?
Oh yeah, thank you. All right, so for anybody who hopefully, I think we have a kind of a mix of customers and non-customers, but or prospects, folks who are thinking about it. But we launched recently, just yesterday, our benchmarks product, which you see the pop-up there. This is like version 1.0 or really like 0.1. It's pretty basic right now, but we think based on our research with our customer base that the metrics we do have are going to be pretty impactful right out of the gate. So what we've done is aggregated all of our customer data where we were given permission. So breaking this down by industry, like your ecom vertical, AOV, and your monthly spend. And so what we've been able to do is take Facebook metrics and your blended ROAS and new customer cost per acquisition to give you an understanding of where you are in the market within your industry or your peer group. So really, it doesn't matter if you're in fashion accessories or if you're in health and beauty. Uh-oh, there he is. If you're in fashion accessories or health and beauty, you actually have the ability to switch that up and see how other verticals are performing as well. Especially good if you're an agency and you work with a plethora of clients. You can basically understand how CPMs are trending for one vertical over the other. So yeah, lots of good stuff there. And so feel free to check that out. And if you have suggestions, we're going to be launching a survey soon to get your feedback on what metrics we should launch next. So think of this as a bit of a crowdsource, and the most votes will get launched because we can do it pretty quickly. So it's fun. Hey, Raba, welcome to the chat, the live stream.
Hey boys, did I miss the memo on the floral shirts? Did you guys not send me that one? What happened?
We just kind of ad hoc'd it. Yeah, I went downstairs and put this on as soon as I saw Sonder had one.
I know I would have brought one with me. Sonder never keeps me in the loop. He's always too fresh. We should all do cheetah shorts at least.
It's not very London.
It's very LA. Yeah, London's terrible. It is rainy and gloomy and not for me.
You missed the setup. That's why we wore the bright Hawaiian shirts today.
Aww.
Yeah,
exactly for that.
For you and Curtis. Curtis is in the chat, and he's also in London, Raba.
Oh, really? Are you coming to the Curtis? Are you coming to the meetup? Hope you are. Amazing. Well, I won't mess up your flow. You are going, so keep on.
Yeah, I think we're 5 minutes in, Sonder. So yeah, let's kick it off. And Sonder is sharing his screen here, so hopefully everybody can see his triple whale Creative Cockpit dashboard right now. And yeah, our goal today is to walk through the new Creative Cockpit, fairly new over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and kind of walk you through the benefits, how it works, and then we'll take Q&A as well. So you can ask questions about this specific feature and product, or if you have other questions about Triple Whale, we're an open book. So Sandra, do you want to give an overview? I think one thing you mentioned last time that would be really helpful is just a bit of context on who you are and what you were doing before Triple Whale, and then kind of an overview of the Creative Cockpit and how you're helping our Triple Whale customers right now use it.
Yeah, definitely. So Sonder over here do product marketing for Triple Whale. Before Triple Whale, I've been involved in a lot of different roles in both the e-commerce and agency world. So I've been the CMO at an e-commerce company doing about 30 million, and then an agency as well, CMO for a 200-person agency. So I have a lot of experience in all things e-commerce, Facebook ads, as well as a lot of lifecycle marketing and different things. So the Creative Cockpit is definitely one of the tools that I was looking for at our last agency, and how we could easily display creative for our clients. Honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons I joined Triple Whale, was because the tool in general just blew me away and was what I was looking for 4 years. So just an awesome, amazing tool. So yeah, here's the Creative Cockpit. This is one of our newest products that we have added. For me as a media buyer, it's just incredibly insightful. So what you can see here is the ability to select between Facebook and TikTok. Very, very powerful, especially with TikTok, with how quickly ads fatigue there. It's helpful to be able to see all of your creative, what's performing, what to get your creative team in the pipeline and be optimizing there. And though we'll go through some more specifics here, but the visualizations that we've included here with the Creative Cockpit are just so impactful and helpful. And you can toggle different creatives here. And you can add even more down here that will show up here. And so we've added some great functionality here. And then you have all of your different metrics throughout throughout the Creative Cockpit.
Yeah, but Saunders, show the customers right here how you can select different ones. So if you kind of want like a truncated view, I know that you've been on the media buying side for a long time, and so there's specific metrics that you feel are probably most impactful to making your decisions. Do you have any specifics here that are like your go-to?
Yeah, I think when it comes to video, thumb stop ratio is probably one of the most important. So
tell them how that works. What's a thumb stop ratio?
I don't remember the exact calculation, but it's more or less the
3 second views 3 seconds impressions. Yeah, 3 second views.
3 second views divided by impressions. Yeah.
The pattern interrupt is essentially what you're saying.
Yep, exactly. So more or less tells you what's stopping the thumb scroll on Facebook, on Instagram. And so that's very important, because that more or less helps you measure the hook in your videos and how effective they are being. So I love that ratio. Obviously, anything to do with conversions and those lagging metrics, I think, are very important. So you can see pixel purchases. I think it's still good to include Facebook's purchases as well. And then the different ROAS metrics, I think, are very important. We do have, you can see here, CPM and click-through rate baked in. I love click-through rate when it comes to creative, because that's what I think is the most powerful leading metric to know if your ads are performing and if they're working. And then if there's anything else any more like Facebook metrics you would like to add, you can come in and add these. I tend not to add, I guess, too many metrics. I would probably honestly simplify some of this, just because there's a lot of data here. But once again, it comes down to your preference and how often you're looking at creative and the metrics that matter to you.
Yeah. And I think, one cool thing though, too, is the reason we added so many options is that if you do work for an agency or helping brands out, like coming to this screen and setting it up for each of your brands that you have in Triple Whale, adding the metrics that are impactful for each one of those or matter most, and then using this for reporting right back to them. So if they do, because I think in the past, right, Sonder, like you've had to go into Ads Manager, open up the edit window on each of your ads, take screenshots of the metrics, and today it's a bit more of a simplified view, and should likely and hopefully save a lot of time for people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, as everyone here knows, like looking to see what ads are performing is like a mess. We tried creating, different Google Data Studios that would dynamically like pull in the creative, but then things would always break. And so being able to just like visually see every single creative that's running is just like so powerful. And then up here, we can actually sort it by, if we wanted to sort it by pixel ROAS, we can come in here and sort it by what is actually like performing, and you can see what's performing above average. Obviously, when looking at ROAS, we always want to look at our ad spend. So, I think that's the next place I'm going is like, all right, there's some good traction here. So let's scale it up.
Yeah, and just a note on that, while we're sitting on ad spend, feature 2.0 will be adding additional filters and segments. So right now, Sandra will walk through in a bit, like how you can set up different segments here, so you can view creative around different elements or variables. But in the future, we'll have a secondary dimension. So if you wanted to see only ads that have spent $100, $500, $1,000 in the time frame you have selected, we're gonna have that available for you. So coming soon.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because honestly, in my opinion, the most important metric is spend. Like if you can spend up on an ad, because you're going to have diminishing returns eventually. And so if an ad can handle more and more spend and still have, the returns that you need to hit, I think it's really awesome. So that's really great to hear that that's coming, Logan. Sonder, do you ever look at different metrics depending on the place it's in the funnel? Because one of the things that I love about the Creative Cockpit, not to hijack this, but just kind of putting in my 2 cents, is that the new customer AOV is really nice, where you can see, I'm a big believer in spending the majority of my paid media on prospecting. And so being able to see how this is actually materializing in new customer, because sometimes even if you do have exclusions on or et cetera, Facebook will slip in kind of website visitors or so on and so forth. Is there any kind of metrics that you like to look at in terms of like a prospecting versus remarketing, retargeting, or how do you think about that?
Yeah. Great question. And I think you nailed it. Like, for sure, when I'm looking at this, I'm definitely looking at my new customer acquisition cost here, and then what that AOV is, and then finding that delta. I think we have the ROAS in here as well, or at least we do in the, I don't know if do we have new customer ROAS, Logan, in the Creative Cockpit?
No, I think it's just CPA for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you can do is then take, your campaign ad set and even the ad and go back into the pixel section and see exactly what that ROAS is, or you can calculate it manually, and we can see here we're about, a 2.5. So yeah, I think that's a huge metric that I like to look at, Raba. And I think going back to prospecting versus retargeting, I think, retargeting is obviously going to have more purchases and things coming in that way. So I think for me, that's where I do like to look a little bit more at my leading metrics on what's actually driving higher click-through rates, and then moving those types of creatives into my prospecting campaigns to see if we can, drive a higher new customer CPA. So that's the kind of data I'm looking at based on ROAS and the different customer types.
Yeah, great answer.
Can you show them a bit the graph, like show off the graph and how you use it a bit? Because I know that this gives you a unique opportunity to select, I think, up to 5 creatives, and visualize them on any metric you'd like, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So the reason why I tend to have like pixel ROAS here and pixel ROAS here is just because it keeps the data clean when we're looking at this trend view this way. What I like to do is actually toggle to this bar graph, and then I'll actually look at platform ROAS versus pixel ROAS, and then you can see your top performers in this view. So pretty cool to see here, a few ads that are getting pixel ROAS, but aren't getting any in-platform ROAS. So I love this view, and you can choose any metric you want. I tend to keep them, correlated, just so we're not, if we go purchases, it's going to make the graph obviously a lot bigger and the data a little less relevant to see. But yeah, so these are all the different metrics we can sort by here. And it's still not bad to see it this way. You're just obviously dealing with more data to look at, which some people like. I think it's good to get a good analysis over the last 30 days of what is performing, so you can see different spikes and peaks here across different creatives. So I think it helps you, back Robert, to your point that, actually I think it was in chat, asking about frequency and ad fatigue. I think this is a good
I think for ad fatigue, you can definitely, this is not a great indicative graph of that, but there are definitely times where something will come out hot out of the gate, but as you're increasing your spend, you're starting to see purchases decline over time and CPMs rise. So it's kind of a cool opportunity to see the decline in an ad, or if an ad's scaling well.
Can I rant for a bit?
Oh yeah, here we go.
Run.
Okay, strap in. Here's the London rant, because I'm all fired up because this weather's horrible. I don't know how people live here. I don't believe in ad fatigue. I think ad fatigue is a misnomer. I think that's a unique way that isn't super helpful to think of ads. I like to think of ads in ad life cycles, and some live ads have longer lives than others. But that the fatigue is just it just bothers me to have that mental model, just because ads don't get tired. When I was running ads, I had ads that ran for literally almost 2 years. And so I think there's a certain aspect of being able to understand what is working in an ad, how to keep it working. And that there's definitely ads that will live and die short and fast, but they might have a very vibrant life within that life cycle. There's some ads that can be evergreen and kind of really turn up the spend. So that's kind of my little hot take on, I don't think ad fatigue is a real thing. I think a better mental model is ad life cycles and how long can this ad live. And ideally, you want to find those ads that are going to live longer and longer, and you can just pump the spend, the social proof accrues on them, so on and so forth. But anyways, that's my just little rant. Any pushback there? I see your.
No, I like it. What I'm curious of is, do you have any feedback for the folks here listening on how you would identify those life cycles using this feature? Are there some, let's say you had 2 ads selected.
Yep.
One may have been running for the last 30 days and you've identified that it's doing well as an evergreen ad.
Yep.
Compared to something you wanted to test against it that you had just started scaling up. Are there some ways you would suggest understanding whether or not that second ad could be a long running kind of marathon ad?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ultimately, this is going to be a little bit contextual, because a lot of this is going to be dependent on your ad architecture and how you have your account structured. I was a very big proponent when I was running paid media for simplified account structure. So ultimately, I would have a testing account structure, or a testing campaign, and then I would have an evergreen campaign. And then that evergreen campaign would actually be cost controlled. So I would use bid caps. And so when a certain, I forget the thresholds I was using, but ultimately it was spend in relation to my ROAS. And so you would see if something can spend up to X, Y, or Z. And then once that ROAS kind of started to dip a little bit, I knew that this ad wasn't necessarily dead, but probably dying. And so what I would do is then move that ad into, we call them the champion campaigns, and move those champion campaigns into the evergreen, and then just bid cap that. That way I would still get, because this would have a ton of comments, a ton of likes, yada, yada, yada. But the problem was it wasn't generating the returns anymore. And so ultimately, to kind of circle back to your question with a long-winded answer, it was always rooted in some sort of either ROAS, purchases, CPA metric. But that was always referenced in spend, because at the end of the day, I wanted to spend as much money as possible within an efficiency metric. And so the clients I was working with did not have hard spend caps. They could spend whatever, but they just had efficiency caps or an efficiency spectrum that I needed to stay within. So ultimately, I would use pixel ROAS to make sure that it's not falling below a certain threshold. You can establish that threshold across your account, and then anything that has a spend over X, Y, or Z. So these fun filters that you're bringing us shortly, where you can have a metric of the ads that have spent over, say, $1,000, $10,000, whatever contextual it is to the account. And then once those kind of started to die off, it was kind of like a Michael Jordan thing, right? Where it's like he's no longer like the Bulls Michael Jordan, but he was still decent on the Wizards. It's just you weren't playing him 40, 60 minutes a game, and you would kind of just put him in when he needed to come in, almost like a pinch hitter. And the way those cost controls work is they're only going to spend if they think you can win. And so it was this kind of nice little boost when things were good and the markets, quote unquote, were good. These ads would spend and you would crush. When they weren't, they wouldn't spend that much and you would just sit there. So I don't know if that muddied the water at all, or was that helpful?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. How would you, I think I agree for sure, Rob, with what you're saying when it comes to prospecting. I've seen like those evergreen ads like live forever in prospecting. Do you feel like there's fatigue when it comes to retargeting?
Oh, look at you guys are just, we did not plan this, by the way. This is just continental mind meld across the pond. I actually was a naughty boy. I would never that's not fair. Never, I shouldn't speak in absolutes. For the most part, I would not only run an ad in one part of the funnel. I would actually run ads in multiple parts of the funnel. And so there would be ads in the same ad would be in retargeting and in prospecting. And so I do think that remarketing is much more faster to find the end of a life cycle. But I was literally 80-20. I was not a huge remarketer in terms of ads. I thought they need to be there if you have certain economics. But the most part was I was trying to win at the prospecting level, and the remarketing was actually more so. Remember back in the day when you used to like run engagement campaigns or what have you to juice up the actual post? Yeah. Honestly, that's what I would do with really successful prospecting ads. I'd run them in remarketing, and they might not be kind of quote unquote crushing it, but I would get comments or really awesome likes and engagement from super fans because they've already bought the product and they're like, oh, I love this, I love that. And you get this really nice kind of bastion of social proof on this ad that then kind of engages it even more, and it opens up more and more and more. Because I basically run broad on prospecting and then the retargeting. So it's kind of like an engagement hack in that way. But again, I would use that either at a budget caps. So either on the ad set level where I would cap the budgets, or I would have bid caps in my remarketing as well, where I just, not that I'm not a huge believer in remarketing, but at the end of the day, what I was trying to do with my paid media was to find incremental conversions, not just handing people an ad when they're walking to the checkout.
I love that.
Yeah, you know, something interesting that you just made me think of with this graph, what you could do is hack this a little bit, and you could segment this by ad name. So let's say you had that same ad, so that it would actually be, I guess, consolidated on this page through ad. But if you use the right naming convention, you could set it up to where you knew which one was in your remarketing, which is juicing the impressions, the comments, the likes. And then you could take the one that's in prospecting and layer them over in the graph. And you could see if there's a direct correlation to you juicing the ad with the, what am I trying to say?
The remarketing,
so like the social proof, proof, is that correlating to conversions, right? And that could be interesting because if you're using the same post ID, it should all be the same, and they're like helping each other out, I think.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, you can see them grouped here. Number of ads 3, 9 on this one. So yeah, exactly that.
Big brain moves. The other thing that I love about this, and Avi does a really good job of this, is a lot of people are testing angles. And so this is a really easy way to go through. And so every week you might launch 3 to 5 different angles. And as long as your naming conventions are proper, you can easily see angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, or what have you. And then you can understand really easily what angles are going to be working and not working. And then to Sandra's point as well, if they're videos, you can also start to reference in correlation to thumb stop ratio on actual hardcore business metrics, whether that be pixel ROAS or what have you. So that's a really cool way to leverage this graph in the cockpit as well, is to understand how your angles are performing. And then you can iterate on hooks that are really pushing above average performance, and then sunset the ones that aren't.
Yeah, let's talk about that though, Sandra. Show them. Let's talk about angles, naming conventions. Like, describe what you would use for a naming convention for an angle. Let's just say it was simple, like it was an offer, right? 20% off your first purchase or something. And then show them like you are now with the segment, so they could review that angle, and then others as well.
Yeah, great. So this is where you can come in and create your different segments. So I don't think this current example won't be applicable to this account, but I'll show you how it does look with ones that are. So to Rob's point, this is where you can come in, talk about angle one. Maybe that is a USP of, I don't know, a new flavor that's coming out, right? Maybe that's like the USP you're trying to hit on, or maybe, going back to obvi, like double the collagen. Maybe that's like the new angle they're trying to test out there. So then you come in here. You don't
Not
have
to cut you off, Sander, but what's a
Yeah.
USP? A unique selling point?
Yeah, unique selling proposition.
Proposition.
Nice.
Amazing. Look
So
at this guy. Bring
Love
it
our
out.
acronyms.
We can go point guard, little Steph Curry.
There we go.
But yeah, so USP, that's at least what we would call it. So like I said, that angle one isn't actually going to apply here. We can still keep it, but you can see I've selected different segments that do apply with Madison braid. So I have UGC, old, bun, angle one. So then what we can do right here, we have creatives. I'll give this a second to load. Once it's done loading, we'll switch this over to actually segments. And then we can start to see, because I know one of like the biggest questions for us was what's the top performing creative? And even like looking at triple well zone ads, it's like what creative performs well? We're investing a lot into UGC type content. So now we can actually group our content to see what is performing over time. So you can see UGC does tend to have a high trend line. This old tends to have a higher trend line. And you can make this window as big as you want to be able to see what creative is performing over time, especially when there's like new creative trends coming up, whether those are like more real type content. So as long as you're putting in your ad name what that is, then you can pull in the segments. And not even ad name, campaign, ad set. Those are all the different segments that we can create at this level. So
yeah, so for everyone listening here, you would suggest putting your USP, your unique selling proposition, in some sort of nomenclature within the ad itself, and then using that to build your segments?
Yeah, I would. So yeah, USPs, angles, they're kind of like the same nomenclature. So whatever you want to, put in there, I would for sure recommend. I know like with our own ads, we have a pretty long ad name where we're even including like campaign and ad set details, just so we can even make the filtering and segments even more granular if we want. Here, like I said, you can still do campaign and ad set and create segments on that. Just more helps us visually see what's performing well. So that's why we do it. But yeah, I would recommend make your ad names as long as you want, so you can segment them as best as you want.
Yeah, you can also do some cool stuff with one. We probably should just do a webinar on naming conventions and different ways that you can use naming conventions. But there's also some cool automated naming conventions that you can use, like if you do like to include your campaign, ad set, what have you, image type, etc. Facebook gives you some pretty cool automated campaign name or automated naming that you can do that with. But I love that. It's really brilliant.
Their templates. I think we should share. I don't know if we'd be open to it. We should share their template. Like we should share one of our templates, maybe on Twitter or in the description of this video when we post it. That could be kind of cool to see how we build it for anyone else who wants to see.
Yeah, naming conventions are huge. That's for me, it's a big red flag when I would go into to audit an account, and then you would just see gobbledygook in terms of naming conventions, where it's like you want to have your naming conventions high and tight, or else it makes kind of just a lot of nonsense.
What did you say about goop?
Gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a
mess. Come on, man.
Mr. Fancy USP, you can't talk like the people.
Can't talk
like
gobbledygook?
the plebes over here.
Gobbledygook.
All right, hold on. So I gotta stop you there too, because you mentioned something. You're talking about the gobbledygook, and I want to talk more gobbledygook. But I need the professional's advice here, and I think this will help the folks listening. Tell us about how you would ensure standardization when it comes to creating new ads, because I've seen accounts where a lot of people are uploading, let's say, an image or a video creative directly from their laptop into the ads platform. Once that's happened, let's say once that image or video has been created and you want to use it across multiple ad sets or campaigns, to keep things very crisp and clean, how would you suggest they name the file? How would you suggest they go about copying that ad over to another ad set or campaign to make sure that this creative dashboard and Cockpit is as clean as possible and their account is as clean as possible? Any suggestions there?
Yeah, I mean, personally, what I like to do is I like to keep the ad names as consistent as possible. The campaign and ad sets will obviously be different. The reason I like to keep ad names as consistent is because you can come into this view and like actually see the aggregate level of how everything is performing. Where with segments, you're still only going to see like, you know, them broken down. I guess you could see an aggregate level with these two metrics. So that would be the counterpoint. So it just depends, I guess, on what metrics are most important. But I love, like with this example, we're pulling in 9 ads. Here's the aggregate ad spend, purchases, and then going back to Raba's point with like CPA, you know, and being able to see like what this ad is doing at an aggregate level for CPA and AOV, I think is like very powerful. So that's one thing I do like. I guess that would also go contrary to my point of like including campaign name and ad set name in your ad. So yeah, I guess I counter what I said originally based on how I've been using the Creative Cockpit for our ads.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I think one thing that I wanted to confirm with you guys is that if you're trying to reuse a piece of creative and you can confirm or deny, it's always better to use whatever asset you've already uploaded into Ads Manager versus trying to upload it again. I believe that would throw off the image hash that we use for the ad aggregation. Is that correct?
It's a good question because my understanding is Facebook does some fancy stuff where unless it's a different dimension or what have you, it kind of knows what the same creatives are. That's a good question because it might throw off the image hash, but it shouldn't. Like if you have, I don't know. That's a good question. But my understanding was Facebook has some fancy way of knowing like this is the same video, this is the same image, et cetera, et cetera. But I might be talking out of my butt there. But I'm almost
That's okay.
positive.
I didn't mean to get too technical. I just know it's one of the top questions is, and just like you're seeing here in this view, like, hey, why do these two ads, these are the same creatives, why do they show twice? You can see clearly here the ad name is different. So that's why it's the same creative, but shown separate.
Oh, no. Well, so we could probably drill into that, but those I'm guessing are different dimensions.
Okay.
Just the crop is different, or because we're taking the crop out of the same thing, that's probably an actual different image, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
If the dimensions are different, then it's seen as a different image. That's a good question, actually.
That's good. I'll dig deeper and put it in our knowledge base, but just wanted to bubble that up for anyone listening.
Amazing. Speaking of questions, can I pepper you guys with some real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fire.
All right. So everybody's shy except for Golfum. So, all right. Let me start this really quickly. Okay, so the question is, any update when CPC all and CTR outbound, so click-through rate outbound, will be added, and frequency and custom metrics?
I'm looking at Logan.
Well, I think I understand where the CTR is coming from, or just clicks in general. Right now, for Facebook specifically, the metric we pull from the API, not in this view, but in the summary page, for example, or in your pixel, the clicks is all clicks, not just outbound. So if this is specifically speaking to the pixel page, then yeah, we are planning on adding the outbound clicks as a separate metric. But in the Creative Cockpit, outbound clicks from the Facebook API is available. As far as cost per click, I do believe we have that metric identified from the APIs themselves, from like Google, TikTok, Facebook, etc. But we may need some more information on cost per click all that you're alluding to here, because I think that is what we pull, especially from Google.
Yeah, I don't know if we're pulling unique or all when it comes to cost per click on Facebook.
It's a great question.
Cost per link click.
The other thing is, can you explain to people the difference between click-through rate and then the outbound clicks, Logan?
Well, it should be using the click-through rate should be using outbound clicks divided by impressions, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I guess what I was trying to get at is there can be on-platform clicks, so like likes, engagements, those kind of
Oh, yeah.
things, comments, and that would not be considered an outbound click. Where an outbound click is something that's going to go off-platform, just to kind
Yeah,
of give
and that's
people
the difference with what we're showing in the pixel page. So if you were to pull in the clicks from Facebook on that page, those clicks are indicative of any click that happened on your ad. So even if they click to your profile,
right,
that's a click that Facebook's going to count. Yeah.
right, or click a like or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic answer. Wonderful. Okay, moving on. We have another one for you. Okay. Would love if we could replace, or hold on, let me do this one. Let's see. I don't think I understand this one. So G might
He's talking about
maybe.
on the actual creative. There's those two lines that have the dynamic green and red bars. So right now, the reason we had to keep those, if you scroll down a little bit, Sonder, right there. So the reason we had to keep those static rather than allowing customers to set them up themselves is because we had to actually identify which direction was positive and negative. And so that gets a little dicey if you were just to choose anything you wanted.
Are you talking about temporary segments, or I think you jumped the gun on the question?
Oh, I thought you asked me a question about CPM.
I did, but yeah, I did. He has that next question.
My bad. Sorry.
It's okay. You answered it already, but would love the option to create temporary segments rather than creating permanent segments. So I actually have a question here. Logan, are the segments account based or are they user based? Like, meaning if I create segments, can Sonder see the segments in the account, or are they only visible to me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, account based. And even
Oh,
now,
amazing.
those filters are going to be, for right now, it could change, but right now the filters you set, I know specifically on the summary page, if you were to set a filter on Facebook, for example, it's going to follow you through the app, like from the summary page to the pixel. But yes, if you are setting up a segment today in the Creative Cockpit and your colleague decides to log in, oh, Ilya, hey, if your colleague decides to log in, they will be able to see the segment as well.
So that's really helpful then, where somebody can have some sort of analyst go in there, do all the heavy lifting, and then somebody else can come in and review.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's amazing. Because the other thing that I used to leverage this pretty heavily, and actually I used the old iteration, I haven't ran ads since we've had the Cockpit, but you can use naming conventions to identify. So we would have an agency that actually made ads that we paid a lot of money for, and then we had people in-house that were making ads like in Canva and stuff like that. And it was nice to be able to see. Oh yeah, of course, Ilya. It was nice to be able to see the differentiation in terms of what is working, because I know, like you guys all know, like that $10,000 ad that you made might not always hit, and that little random meme ad might. And so it was nice to be able to make sure that you can report to your client whether the ad or whether their creative spend is actually worthwhile, or if they can just kind of cut some costs there. So fantastic. Ilya, you made it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ilya is one of our. Oh, sorry, Ilya. It's going to introduce you. Introduce yourself, Ilya.
Hey team, I'm Ilya. I'm a product manager on Creative Cockpit and a couple other products.
Amazing.
Nice to have you, man. So Ilya, I saw that you answered in the chat, but confirm with us. I know we were talking about segments being account based. What that means is that any user can create a segment, and that segment's visible by any other user that has access to the account. But then I think we had some questions about the click-through rate and some of the metrics available here versus the pixel.
True. So yeah, segments are account-based, as mentioned before, and the click-through rates, I believe that all of our click data today is clicks all. So it includes clicks on the creatives within the Facebook, likes, and all those other events. And we will be, hopefully soon, even in the next 1 or 2 weeks, bringing in the outbound clicks metric and placing it in all the products within the platform.
Amazing. Okay,
Sweet.
let's answer this other one. And this is kind of what you're going to, Logan. So ultimately,
Yeah,
we
sorry.
give you guys kind of two flagship metrics, CPM and CTR. Is there anything on the roadmap to replace those metrics that matter to us, like CPA or ROAS? I love this question because I'm not a big CPM maxi. If you guys follow me at all, I don't really subscribe to being able to move CPMs too much, but some people like it. But is there anything on that roadmap or any color
Yeah,
there?
it's a good question. Maybe Ilya, you want to jump in and talk about the
Sure.
roadmap?
Sure. So ROAS is already available right above those CPM and CTR lines. And the reason it's not a line like CPM and CTR is that ROAS can be either Facebook or TikTok versus Pixel. And so we had to put it into those boxes where we separate in-platform and the pixel metrics. CPA, I think initially we had it up there as well, but we had to remove it because it was just becoming too cluttered. We could look into allowing you to choose which metric you want to remove and replace with something else. Just have to figure out a user experience that won't become too clunky and won't be like too hard to understand.
I personally would love that, where you can have one or two kind of metrics that will be situated on, because ultimately, too, what you're seeing there is that color gradation is essentially the benchmarking, right? Like that's what your account is benchmark. Here's the end of the spectrum. Here's the other end of the spectrum. And so being able to see where things land in other metrics would be really neat, especially depending on what type of ads you're running, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's super helpful, Ilya. Amazing. I think we got one more. Let's see, check the chat. Oh, frequency. Oh, don't get me started on frequency. Amazing. Let me answer your first question, and then, I love it. Okay, one more from nobody else is going to submit questions. It's like a personal webinar goal from. I love it. I love it. Okay, can we correlate the data for an angle so we can see how the overall angle is performing rather than an on per ad basis? So I'm trying to understand. So like a benchmark essentially, or like an average for the account. Is that kind of what you're asking, or do you guys understand this?
Yeah, I think.
yeah.
Go ahead, Logan.
I was just gonna say, I think he wants to set the segment right per the angle, and then understand across all ads that meet that criteria, how are we performing across ROAS, purchases, etc.
Tracking. Yeah, that actually would be pretty nice, honestly, if we could roll up an account average. That's a really good idea. We should submit that. How do we submit feature requests? Don't we have something fancy that you set up, Sonder?
I didn't set it up. Heim did. It's Annie.
Canny. Okay, and how do people get involved with that?
It's
Email
not public.
us and we'll submit it.
Yeah, go through us, and then but that specific feature is on its way. Ilya, I don't know if we want to talk about that timelines and true dates, but I do know that segmentation feature on the Pixel, that would be the way I would suggest creating a segment and looking at the entire account based on the segment.
Yeah.
Because you could use that exact same dynamic, like ad name contains this angle, and then you could see how your entire account's performing based on that filter.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I was just going to piggyback on that, Logan, and say it's not giving you individual ad performance per se, but obviously grouping into a segment like this will still give you, a lot of different metrics that you can go through for that specific like aggregated angle in this view. So
yeah.
So that's I think these segments are powerful, and then you can come down below and actually see what campaign that's actually performing well in, or piggyback off of more data that way.
Amazing. Fantastic answers, boys. Fantastic answers. Oh, we got another one. Okay, amazing.
Great question on we didn't do the creative highlights yet.
Oh, we have not. Is it show stopping ready or no?
Yeah.
It's ready. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I'll answer this if you're good with that. So for me, creative highlights, I love using this as a snapshot, especially when you have a lot of different stakeholders in the company asking what's our top performing creative. This is a good little one-click option where you can see by different metrics what your top performing creative is. And so interesting with this specific example, you can see this ad has the most impressions, but ironically doesn't have the most amount of clicks, which normally you would see a pretty high correlation. So I think it's good just to see the type of creative that's performing together. Like you can see a theme here. This specific ad is performing pretty well when it comes to pixel ROAS and purchases. So that's how I like to use it, as just like a good snapshot to see what's performing overall.
Yeah, and Sandra, you and I talked before. There's like an interesting thing I think you could do on the ad level, but maybe just as you're analyzing, we were talking about how the correlation between ROAS and purchases and conversion value could be almost, we're going in the opposite direction, meaning we're likely decreasing spend on this ad. So that's why conversion value and purchases are down, but the return on ad spend is actually higher. So you're getting a more efficient media buying out of that ad. So it could be like, you guys might be able to tell me, but maybe they were spending too much, putting too much into that ad, but scaling it back actually made it a more efficient spend. Is that a fair analysis?
That was my hypothesis when we were talking about it. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, I think that's how I would be thinking about it. Obviously, if you're in the account day in, day out, you'll understand more of the story behind it. So to help answer some of those, but yeah, I think that's a perfect summary.
Yeah. Cool. And again, I would go back to, I think spend's the most important metric. And so having ROAS thresholds or what have you is really important. But ultimately, the ability to spend more on an ad is probably the best success heuristic. And so having a really high ROAS would show to me that you're actually probably underspending for that. But I think your analysis is spot on, Logan.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, Ilya, we'll do one more here. This is not Creative Cockpit related, but can we see Pixel CPA and not yet, correct? Not on the summary page?
That's correct. Not yet on summary page, but this is something that we definitely want to bring to summary page. Logan, right?
Yeah. It's been designed, just not implemented yet, but there's going to be more than just those two metrics from the Pixel coming soon to the summary page.
How exciting. Do you guys like the, let's add a poll. Do you like the new, I like playing with all these features, like the new summary design.
We need to do some math and figure out how many people are utilizing it. I wonder how many folks have it.
Yeah. I've had a couple people tell me they love it, and then I have a couple people tell me they split. You guys know any splitters where people keep the OG on mobile and the desktop new design? I find it weird, but hey, to each their own, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear, Golf. That's fantastic to hear. What are some other great takeaways for creative? So for Sandra, Logan, or Ilya, whoever, is there any other nuggets that you want to add? How would you make better creative? How would you manage creative? Is there anything else that, whether it's Creative Cockpit related or not, that you think about when you're?
Well, I mean, I kind of had a unique circumstance, I think. I mean, I was in the apparel world before this. And so we would try a lot of different funky elements within the creative itself. So if it was like a static, we would, instead of just labeling it as a static image or something like that, we would also put some of the elements that were within the creative itself. Like we had these pieces of iconography that were very cartoonish, but we had like real humans, and then we would add the cartoons into the image almost as if they were there in real life. But then we would test that against something that was extremely close up or very detail oriented. And so right now we don't have the ability to do like tags necessarily, but I think if you could implement those elements into your naming convention, it could help you understand using the segments whether or not those types of creative tests are driving incrementality, if that makes sense. Not just image versus videos or or this product versus that, but like truly the style of creative that you're pushing out.
Amazing. Okay, two other questions, and then there was actually a thumb stop ratio question. So what's a good thumb stop ratio? I wonder if that'd be an interesting benchmark. The only problem is I always get really nervous with benchmarks that aren't rooted in business, because if I said, would you want like cheap acquisition or higher thumb stop ratio, like what would you prefer, right? And so that's my always pushback with CPMs. Like, unless you're running like literal reach campaigns, it's like, who cares if you're paying more money to get in the room with all the rich people versus you're going to be in the room with all the poor people that are just kicking the tires? Like, of course you're going to want to pay more money to get in the room. So that's a good question. Yeah, 30 to 50%. That's pretty strong. So that's really good numbers there. But so I guess 30 to 50% is around a decent thumb stop ratio. So that's really good. That's super helpful, Ilya.
I'd say 30%, Robba. That's what I threw in the chat.
That's what you
like
like
the
too?
average I've seen meeting with customers. I think if you're at a 50% thumb stop, like you have probably one of the best hooks on Facebook. So
yeah. Again, though, I would make sure that backs out into some sort of tangible business metric. Because I used to run ads for a company called WAG when I was at an agency. And one of the things that we did was, so WAG, I don't know if you guys knew, it's like a dog walking app. It's like an Uber for dog walking, essentially.
Yeah.
And we tested puppies and puppy pictures. Absolutely wrecked it. Super good, performed like crazy. And the other problem is when you have an ad that performs really well, especially in engagement, Facebook's just going to open that up to more and more people. You're going to get super low CPMs. Life is good. But then there was nothing on the back end. We'd literally get no conversions. So not only would this ad command all the ad spend, we wouldn't drive any actual business metrics. So again, not saying that these soft metrics aren't helpful, but everything should be rooted in some sort of tangible business metric that you're trying to drive forward. And these leading indicators can give you quicker proxies to whether that business metric, these lagging indicators, if you will, are going to happen. But that's kind of just my little rant there.
I agree. Lagging indicators first, leading second.
Beautiful. We didn't touch on any of the copy. And so one of the things I think of in terms of ads, and Sandra and Logan, I'd love to hear your viewpoint on this, but I think of ads in terms of a hierarchy of importance. And so I think creative is the number one important, whether it's video, image, carousel, that's my number one importance. Then it goes headline, then it goes copy, then it goes description, and then it goes CTA. Is that kind of your guys' hierarchy, or how do you rank the components of each quote unquote ad?
Well, I guess I'll go first and then I'll let other people go. But I guess the one thing that I did in my previous media buying was that I would run one ad, and then I would use Facebook's like dynamic headline generator, not generator, but like I would put 5 different ones in just to see if it improved. I don't think they have great reporting on it, but maybe we could do that for our customers. But that's where I'd be curious of is like, if you keep the element the same, the ad, and then you're changing up the headline or description, does that have an impact? Does a single variable have an impact on the conversion rate or thumb stop ratio or any of those metrics? That would be interesting to me.
I love that. There's 2 points there, though. So one, there's actually 2 types. There's dynamic creatives where you can have all these different types of ads, or excuse me, I should be more precise in my nomenclature. Creative, headline, description, CTA, you can have all these things. That's dynamic creative. That's one thing. And then there's also something called multi-text ads where you essentially keep the creative the same, and then you can add different descriptions or title or headlines and so both of them are really good. The one issue that I ran into, and I think it might be fixed now, is it's hard to run post IDs because they are seen as kind of a dynamic creative. And so unless it graduates to a point where there's a creative combination that has enough juice that Facebook will make an actual unique post ID, it's hard to do the post ID hack on something like that. But I think it's a really good point.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else wants to go on that subject, but
I think the question here is more segmenting by headline in the platform.
Yeah.
And getting to that point. So I don't know, Ilya, Logan and I were talking about it before the webinar. Is there anything on the roadmap there?
It's not on the immediate roadmap, but that's one of the things we want to add, which is breakdown by headline, like we have a breakdown by copy today, and then also a breakdown by a combination of things. So maybe image plus copy or image plus headline. Um, that's a more distant roadmap, but definitely
Amazing.
something that
Yeah.
should come.
Super helpful. Okay, let's see. Oh man, we're doing some work here. Okay, we got 3 more questions to get through, so we need to hustle because we're about 5 minutes away from the cutoff. Okay, here we go. Amazing. So, what about a share creative button to directly share creatives to creative team? Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I can quickly answer that one. So the
Yeah.
next 2 things we're building for Creative Cockpit are filtering by numerical metrics like number of impressions and spend, so that, for example, when you're looking at this list of creatives, you don't have to see the ads that have spent $1 in the last 30 days. Like, you don't care about those. So that is the first thing we're going to release, hopefully in a week. The next one is ability to share the data that you're looking at. Like, we have the sharing already, I think, on the summary page. So some form of that will be available in the Creative Cockpit. We still have to figure out whether you share just a whole page. So you've filtered it, you've created segments, and you've sorted it in a particular way. And then like the snapshot of this page is a shareable page, or whether it will be like a combination of some of the cards that could be shared. That one is still unclear, but some form of sharing is coming. And if you can submit feedback through Kenny, please do. We definitely want to build something that will be more useful to everybody.
Yeah, that's game changing. I didn't know that was on the roadmap. I mean, that's basically going to be pseudo creative reporting, which would be super, super awesome. So thank you for that, Ilya. That's incredible.
So rad. It's going to be huge.
Huge, huge in Japan. Anybody get the reference? Any plans for creating custom metrics in Creative Cockpit and Pixels as manager?
Not at the moment. We first need to get through at least Creative Cockpit, not at the moment, because we first need to get through some of those features that I've mentioned. Then we can start looking into ability to create custom metrics.
What custom metrics would you want to see, Gotham? Just toss that in this chat, and then I'll go to your last question. Okay, you already got it. What's a hold rate? Oh, I don't even know what that is. Have you guys heard of hold rate before? I've never heard of this before. Blowing my mind. USP hold rate.
I have some additional video metrics in the pipeline as well to be added. So they won't be available as something you can customly build, but they will be just like thumbs up ratio. They will be available by default.
That's interesting. So I've never heard of that before. So yeah, I'm tracking what you're saying. Same as thumb stop ratio, but instead of 3 seconds of the pattern interrupt, you're making sure that people look at the That's interesting. Ooh, you guys are high level in this one. All right, and then we'll do one more question and then we'll wrap it up. Is it possible to break down creatives, see breakdown by creatives, headlines, etc. for? I don't believe we do any dynamic creatives yet. Correct? It gets pretty gnarly.
We don't. Facebook APIs are quite limited in what they can share about dynamic creative. So we're still looking for different ways to acquire the data from Facebook. But right now, it doesn't seem to be possible to get breakdown by each of the creatives that was in the dynamic creative.
Yeah, dynamic creative gets pretty gnarly pretty quickly, especially if you start adding a few things in each iteration. The iterations get crazy. But yeah, great questions.
Ilya asked us about that this week, if it would be valuable. Looks like you've dug in a little bit deeper and found it's a little more difficult.
Yes, I spent too much time.
It's pretty gnarly. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. There's not a lot of thumb stop success ratio. Jeez, Gotham, you just have all these crazy metrics. How amazing is that? How fun. All right, folks, I have a party to get to, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. This is our second whale webinar. We are going to host these every Wednesday. I don't know what next Wednesdays is, but you can always go to triplewhale.com/whale-webinar. The sign-up page will always be there. They'll be around 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday, depending on our schedules. There will be a little bit of wiggle room there. What else do we got? Logan, you keep getting requests for a whale rope hat. So that is actually not Triple Whale merch. That's just Logan's incredible taste. So we will have some hats in the pipeline. We do have, if you go to store.triplewhale.com, we have some incredible merch. This is actually, if you go to one of our whale road shows, so if you were at New York, London, Toronto, and then there'll be one in LA, you'll get a Whale Roadshow shirt. There's also a bunch of amazing Triple Whale. The 8-bit whale is one of my favorites. What else we got? Sonder, what else you got?
I don't think I have too many updates. I mean, we've got a big update coming next week. I'm pumped about. So
Yeah, did
Logan.
you that right, Logan, at the top?
Nope.
No, we didn't talk about. We talked about benchmarks a bit at the top of the hour. So definitely check out benchmarks, and then
You want to
I would
tease
stay
or no?
tuned. Stay tuned next week, and I think Tuesday's live day. We hope so.
Oh gosh. Oh, we're
Yeah.
keeping a can on it. See, sorry, folks.
Yeah,
This
listen,
is
isn't how
Logan's
marketing
domain.
works? Like,
It's a,
get
I
them to
think
go
that
to get them to get on Twitter.
they call this the
Jeez.
Check
hook.
out the email.
They call
Sign up
this
for the
the hook.
email to get exclusive access to features and launches. Then
Oh,
Triple.
man, this guy's good. Wow. Yeah, if you aren't in Narwhal Nation, definitely get in there. That is our exclusive Slack group to Triple Whalers only. There's about 1,400 people in there. Incredible channels, really awesome people. It's a really, really great community there. What else we got? We got Whale Mail. Make sure you're subscribed to Whale Mail. That goes out every Tuesday, Thursday. This Tuesday, so yesterday, essay was incredible by one of the social peeps at Manscaped. Really, really wicked smart cat. Definitely worth the read. What else I got? We got 2 podcasts. They go out every Monday, Wednesday. Definitely subscribe to those, or you can watch them on our YouTube channel. What am I forgetting to plug, Logan?
Keep using the app. Give us feedback.
Oh, there's a mobile app. So definitely download the mobile app, Android and iOS. What else? Thank you, Ilya, for jumping on. This was really awesome to have you on, especially since you've been just running all this amazing stuff, and you and Logan bring just a whole nother layer of technical insights that Sonder and I cannot compete with. So your addition to the webinar was greatly appreciated. Oh yeah, follow the T-Dubs on Twitter. How did Golfam, what would I do without you today? All the questions, all the answers. Golfam, you're incredible. We'll send you some merch. Hit me up. I think that's it, though, guys. Thank you so much. I'm 2 minutes late to the roadshow, so I got to get going. But we really appreciate all of your guys' support. Again, let us know how we can make these webinars more useful for you. If there's any topics you want to know about, if there's any cool custom metrics, anything that we can do to make the app generate more value for you and your clients. But I think that's it. Any parting words, Sonder, Logan, Ilya?
Appreciate it, fam.
Nope.
Amazing. All right, keep triple whaling. And then if you do, tell us on Twitter how great of a job we're doing, and we would love you for that. And that's it. That's another whale webinar on the books. Thanks for watching, everybody. And this will be emailed to you post hoc as well if you didn't catch all of it. Bye from London, South Carolina, San Diego, and Utah. I mean, the whale is expansive, people. This is amazing.
The global whale.
Blue whale.
Global whale. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And Curtis, if you do want to come, hit me up. Let me know. All right. Bye, everybody.
See ya.